Hello, everybody. Welcome to the stream, guys. Today we're talking about multi-classing and DPS, and I've brought in an expert. Um, Daedric was so nice to drop in here. He's someone who parses a lot higher than I do, is a lot more. He's just a better player, let's be honest, than I am, and has a lot more information about DPS and stuff like this. Daedric, I asked you right before we started the stream, what were some of the things you want to talk about? Do you mind sharing what's like the if you have one or two things that you really want to share today? And we don't necessarily need to jump into them right away, but just so everybody kind of knows what we're going to be talking about.
Yeah. That's the main thing I want to talk about is the top end of the parses. Everybody's seeing these 170, 180k parses, and they're acting like the world's ending and whatnot. I kind of just want to go through the parses, talk about like what's going on. Is like beam arc the best thing you can be doing? Is there other potential stuff that's working? That type of stuff.
Cool. All right. All right. Yeah. I mean, I definitely have heard the world is ending. So the waters are going to rise, and eventually we're just all going to float, and then to the edge, and then we'll drop off, and at least we'll have a cool view into infinity of turtles, I guess, stacked end over end. All right.
I like turtles.
All right. Hello, Guppy. What's going on there? Can we get an audio check, guys? For those who have joined in, I just want to make sure the audio is sounding good. Or is Daedric coming through all right for everybody? And while we're waiting on that answer, a couple of things that we wanted to talk about here are, well, I want to talk about, I guess, is some of the more fun builds. You were I think you were memeing, if I had to guess, the other day, and you made an all pet sort build. Is that, or all pet build, zoo build? What are we calling it?
Zoo build.
All right, awesome. So I'll actually pull that up real quick onto the screen so everybody can see it. I guess that's not, guys. For those who don't know, the default image viewer in Windows is hot garbage, I think is the phrase I would use for it. But I'll try to pull it up here. So we've got Daedric Prey, Blighted Blastbones, Cutting Dive, Volatile Familiar, Twilight Tormentor, and then we got the bear. Illyria will be excited to know that there is a bear. Stampede, which on the back bar, I noticed. Daedric, are you aware that Stampede is not a pet, man? What's going on with that? Blue Betty and then Skeletal Arcanist. Did you just get confused on the Stampede?
Yeah, maybe.
Okay. The reason Stampede is on there, guys, of course, is so Daedric could keep his back bar weapon enchant procced while on his front bar. And then looks like you're running H's Collar, while technically not a pet, is still fun and looks like a pet, and then Coral Riptide. How did that go for you running this setup? You ran it in the new trial, right?
Yeah.
And what was the what survey says?
Very jank.
Very jank. All right. And I think we have.
It was fun.
Okay, it was fun. Hey, that's better than just jank. And it looks like you parsed 121K with this. Do you have any idea, like, roughly what this will get you on? Well, I guess you can't do this, but I don't know. How does this feel compared to everything else? I guess there's not really an apples to apples comparison.
Yeah. Compared to like what the top end is doing this on the PTS, like this is pretty low.
Okay.
But if you could do this on live, like the damage would be pretty decent. Probably over 100k or something.
Cool. All right. Well, thank you, Scott. Thank you, Guppysaurus. The audio sounds like it's good. Hey, Frog, what's going on? What do the bunnies sound like? Guppysaurus, usually the rabbits don't make any noise. That's typical for them. Although we have had a couple of females that at various times will growl, and it kind of sounds like a growl, usually when they're being a little bit territorial or hormonal. Sorry, guys. For those who don't know, I've got a bunch of rabbits. We love rabbits here, and from time to time, you get random rabbit facts from us. Okay, well, maybe we can move on. I got a couple other parses here and stuff. Is there any one in particular I should pull up that we kind of grab from some public discords?
I guess we can start with the beam build since that's like the main one everybody's concerned about.
Okay, cool. I think I actually have that up here. Looks like this one's by At Yellow Dream. Does that sound right?
Yeah.
And looks like 175 and some change on this one.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh, every time I move from one to the other, it changes how zoomed in it is. Sorry, 1 second. Oh god, that's too much. Oh god, it's way too much. Okay, we'll try this. All right. So is everybody going to be running the beam next patch? I think is one of the questions everybody has. Like, what do you?
So, in content, probably because of how much AoE you need. Like, it's just undeniable that Beam is like the best AoE spammable in the game.
By
But
degrees.
What's up?
By like a
Yeah.
huge measure, right?
Yeah, it's ridiculous. And then they buffed it on top of that, so the gap is even bigger.
Oh my gosh. Perfect. Okay, so you actually think in content that this, for everybody who doesn't know already, and I'm sorry that I keep moving it, we're basically running here an Arcanist here with the beam, so that's what is it? Not soldier, not curative. The other skill line, I forget what it's called.
Herald of the Tome.
Herald of the Tome. There we go. And then we're running from the Necro skill line. Oh my gosh, I'm blanking on all the. Daedric, help me out. What are these 3 skill lines? I can't remember, man.
Gravelord.
Gravelord Sacrifice, and then Assassination for the Nightblade. There we go. We got it out. Okay, so is this going to be the meta setup currently, like right now? I mean, I think we're all expecting and hoping for some major changes on Monday, but right now, is this what it's looking like?
Yeah, with any significant changes, at least like bar-wise, that's what it's going to be looking like.
Okay. And yeah, I think at this point, Gravelord Sacrifice, basically what we have is a couple of skill lines that just seem to be, they just have more good stuff in them. They have good active skills. Some of them just have really good passives. And it does feel a little bit to me, and you tell me if I'm wrong here, but it feels less so with DPS, but it does feel similar to the tanks and the healers, where you have kind of 2 skill lines will mostly fill up your bar. And then maybe you throw in one skill for like a 3rd skill line. Is that accurate for DPS? That's how it is with tanks and healers right now, a bit.
Yeah, it's pretty similar to that.
Okay, cool. And then Gravelord Sacrifice, you're getting a lot of bonus dot damage, which typically you have 1 spammable, and then you got anywhere from 7 to 9 dots on most bars. Is that typically más o menos? That's about right. Maybe less.
Yeah, probably less.
Yeah, and
especially
since
if you're arc beaming.
Right, and then if you're arc beaming, that's considered a damage over time, so it gets a buff from all of this stuff. So it makes the strongest spammable that lasts 4.5 seconds even stronger and even better. Cool. Let me just catch up on chat here real quick. Okay, Ren. Sorry, I know there's a lot of different names. Thanks for letting me know. For multiclassing, can you take the ultimates too, or is it just the basic class skills? Guppy, you can take the ultimates as well, and so actually maybe that's a good question for you, Daedric. So, for the love of God, I can't remember the skill line for the Necro, the Gravelord Sacrifice skill line. Can you grab the Colossus from there, right, and run that in content?
That is correct.
Okay, so probably we'll have a couple of DPS, you think, running Colo in the future if this stays the way it is? Kind of seems like it to me.
You could have it set that way.
Okay.
I imagine supports are going to pick it up, though.
Oh, okay. Okay, cool. All right. The Frog says the beam buff to me is absolutely proof that ZOS either doesn't understand their own game or Arcanist is the thinly veiled premium class of ESO. Yeah, Frog, I would tend to agree with the latter. And then Guppy says, I'm going to lean towards ZOS doesn't understand their game. They have a lengthy track record of not understanding how their game actually works and ignoring player feedback. Maybe it could be both, guys. Maybe it could be both. What's up, Wampus? Okay, cool. Well, this is the basic setup here, guys. There's like 1 or 2 like you could swap out. I was playing around with changing out Quick Cloak on my front bar, and I put Graveler Sacrifice up there, and then put on a self heal at one point for the new trial. Can I ask you a question, just a general one? For Highland Sentinel, we see a lot of people. It's kind of the go-to par set now. How much different do you find Highland Sentinel versus one of the other meta, sets in game right now? What's the delta? What's the difference in damage on that if you're running like Coral or something? Do you have an idea of that off the top of your head?
It's like less than 5%. Like, it's not crazy, but it's definitely noticeable when you're just parsing on dummy.
Okay, so we would look at like less than a 10k difference in this parse compared to what you could do pretty easily in mobile content. Okay, cool. All right. Anything else on this that we should pass on? Do you guys have any questions about this you want to ask? Throw them in the comments. We got Frog saying subclassing as a concept is really cool. The whole dual classing thing has been exciting since D&D in the 90s. Hey, D&D player, there we go. Sadly, I don't think it will be balanced properly. Yeah, Frog, I think that what I said to a friend or somewhere earlier, I think that like half the Exhaust employees were like, when someone brought up multiclassing, they asked the other half of ZOS employees to hold their beer and then went for it. Oh, that's kind of a little bit what it feels like to me. Like, hey, I got this. All right, cool. Well, let's move on and take a look at, I'm not sure what we even got. I think I have these in reverse order from what we were talking about them. Cool. Go Avs, 34 it looks like here. And what do we got? 169k. Go ahead.
Yeah, so the rest of the parses I sent you were for like non-beam setups with different classes being used.
Okay, and
so use like their own class spambles.
Okay, so you think that there's room for there to be some non-beam builds is what you're telling me. Hey, Lyriel.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, because you said that that's really, what's your contention here? When you talked about like thinking that's just going to be beams and a little bit, doom and gloom, and there's not going to be other builds. Like, what's your, your contention, or what's your take home for people if they feel that way?
So, I mean, right now on live, like, Arcanist is definitely a really good class, but there's still room in par spots for non-AoE DPS. Like, you'll see Nightblades and Templars on this patch playing because they can just put out a higher single target, and people will be happy to take them. And I think next patch will have something similar where, like, some people can swap to, like, a non-beam build.
Okay,
and be able to run that.
Okay, is this, so this looks like a Templar, we got Nightblade, and, Tentacular Dread making a comeback, I love it, and Arcanist then, with this build. Okay, why would someone use this build? I mean, besides that it's fun, is there anything that, like, stands out to you, or what makes you think that, like, hey, it just is what it is?
Templar Beam in the content is way better than it seems like when you just use it on dummy. Just because it makes the fight go so much faster in execute when, like, a lot of the time the execute is probably the most chaotic part of the fight.
Okay. Yeah, and I see this is using Biting Jabs, which has got a significant buff. This is pretty interesting. And then Killer's Blade and Execute. That's really interesting. For those who don't know, Tentacular Dread can increase damage taken by opponents by up to 11%, I believe, if I'm thinking correctly. So normally the other morph of that will provide a 5% increase in damage. Tentacular Dread will provide up to 11%. It's based on how many Crux you have. You have to have all 3 Crux to do 11%, and then it's gonna, so total, and then it's for 20 seconds. So it's like a 20-second buff. Looks like Inspired Scholarship, and I guess it's probably an arc base with the banner for the extra extra Crux.
Correct.
Okay, cool. So the banner is going to generate several Crux for you. Inspired Scholarship will also generate another one, and that way, every time you want to use Tentacular Dread, it's always going to be at 3 Crux for that maximum 11% damage increase. That's pretty cool. So this is like something that's viable. Do you think that this parse? So, a lot of us might look at this, and we might go, "This is only 169. I thought you said it's more single target. What are you talking about? The other one, that was a 175 on that other parse." What's going on there?
This was just one of the examples of other classes you can use. One of the parses is 180k. I think that one uses sort.
Okay, cool. So there's other parses out there. There might be some variance in how, perfectly someone can parse, and some of the builds might be a little bit different too. So, but maybe don't stress it too much. It's still very viable. It's not like 30k off is kind of the deal. It's like 5k off.
Right, and especially as we keep these numbers going higher and higher, like a 5k difference between like 100 and 105k is bigger than a 5k difference between a 170 and a 175k parse.
Oh yeah, that's a great point. So if it's 5k, now it's closer to actually like being like a 3% difference, not a 5% difference.
Right.
Okay, cool. I just want to catch up on chat. What's going on, Robert? Frogs. Wait, do we read that? Subclassing as a concept is really cool. The whole dual. Okay, sorry, I already read that one. Robert, I just missed that you had said hello. I'm sorry about that. Sounds about right. Okay, cool. How bad will DK be after U46 nerfs? Robert Miller asks. Will the other class passives be enough to bring it back? Robert, are you asking about a solo class DK? I think that's what he's asking.
Solo class DK is completely cooked because how they nerf sustain, like, it's just going to feel really bad post-patch. But multi-class DK can put up some pretty good numbers. I think one of the parses I sent you was a DK one. That was 174.
Oh, okay. Cool. We'll pull that up in just a second. So yeah, and I think it's true for everything across the board. Like staying on a solo class is just not going to be doable. I know that a lot of people in the community have suggested adding on to each additional skill line, you get a passive that increases your damage by X% as a way of kind of leveling out the class skill lines. I think that is, it'll work in a pinch. It's definitely, we're patching holes at this point though, and at some point you got to replace the tire, or the air is going to come out regardless. Does that sound reasonable, Daedric? Are you on the same page here?
Yeah, I think a lot of the issues with the multi-classing is just coming down to the older classes just weren't designed with that in mind. So like a lot of their stuff is just spread all over the place.
Yeah.
So I think long term they have to like fix where all these passives come from and streamline it.
Yeah, and you're kind of suggesting have a DPS, a healing, and then a tanking skill line largely.
Yeah.
For every class. Okay, cool. Yeah. So Scott, just to answer your question, you're asking about your arc. The go-to is arc with your, your basic. I'm sorry, guys. I'm so bad with names. Whatever the DPS skill line is for Arcanist, Gravelord, and then Nightblade, the assassin skill line. So those are the three you're going to want to run. And you can rewind later and actually see that. I pulled up that parse. Herald of the Tome. Jesus, thank you, Robert. Okay, cool. Yeah, so that's going to be the go-to there, man. At least currently. Things should change next Monday, so just keep that in mind. I just want to make sure we got all the other ones here, all the other comments. Cool, just in case we have any questions about anything. Guppy's talking about the all the pets. Frog says, I was able to get 150k on the PTS a few days ago on Sork swapping out Dark Magic for Assassination. Okay, just one skill line, Frog. That's pretty legit with only doing the one skill line. Another question, does multi-classing take the passive skill or just the active skill from the skill lines? It takes all of them. It takes that whole skill line, Guppy, ultimate, passives, and active skills. Steven says they should only allow the use of one class skill line from a class. It would be much easier to balance that way. Steven, the thing is, man, they said screw balance, screw the game being in like a reasonable state and not disrupting anybody, and they just YOLO'd it, man. Like that's what they did. So that's an idea, but man, they just full sent and like they did a full send on something that they don't really understand the consequences of, and we're seeing the results of that. I mean, there's no other way. So like, yeah, that's a great thought, man. I mean, there's 1,000 other things they could have done that also would made it a lot better. The problem really is that the skill lines are not set up for this. The skill lines were not set up to be used in a multi-class manner like this, and they just did it anyways, regardless of what the consequences were or how it would affect people. And in so doing, they've largely ruined a lot of play styles, because if you had a play style before and now someone can, now someone can do everything you were doing on your class and do an extra 40k damage on top of it, even if they're not the most experienced player in the world, like your build's kind of dead, right? Your build just kind of sucks at that point, and that feels bad. And that's what they, that's one of the things when we were talking earlier, last week actually, a couple of times when we're talking about game design. I don't know what to recommend because I don't even understand the framework they're working within. Do they want you to be able to grab any skill line? Do they want to, because like moving all of the DPS into one skill line, tanking into skill line, healing into one skill line is one way to do it. Another way to do it is to make most of the skill lines comparable in the amount of damage reduction they give you, in the amount of damage increase they give you, and what have you. There are many, many different ways they could do it, but if you don't even understand what their goal is, which they haven't really shared, probably because they don't necessarily have one in mind, then, I think it's pretty clear, right? Like, they just kind of went off half-cocked. So, yeah, but there's a lot of things, man. It's just, I don't even know. It just, I guess they meant that, let me see here. Robert says, I guess I meant the damage line on the DK. It got nerfed pretty bad. Yeah, okay. Well, I guess you're talking about one particular skill line, Robert. I guess I think we're talking more about like everything kind of combined, since that's kind of the state. But yeah, they did destroy the sustain there. Ishii says, full sin with a dev team that wants to reduce the skill difference between bottom and top end, but increases it even more. Yeah, doing the exact opposite of what they would like to do. All right. Daedric, anything to add to that before we move on maybe to the next setup here?
Yeah, I feel where people are coming from, especially with like solo classes having specific niches that are just going to get deleted now. Like, there's no longer going to be Zen Caution or something like that.
Right.
And so if that was like the main thing you played, you're kind of just homeless now.
No. Homeless in ESO. Yeah, I think it's one of the things that, like, if you're coming back, it's probably the by far the least painful, or if you're just starting. But for everybody who's been playing, I think it can feel pretty bad for a lot of people. Robert says, I am homeless. Hey, Victor. Victor says, at first I was saying they should only allow one skill line to be swapped. Now I think they should just update the skills to have more synergy with the other skill lines inside the class to incentivize. Yeah, I think that the one skill line, guys, you can still add a whole bunch of damage with just one skill line. Like, as Frog mentioned, they got 150 with just adding one skill line, if I was reading that correctly. The biggest parses on the arc, right, where it's going to be the Nightblade crit, which is going to be significant, and then it's going to be the passives. I guess that would go down considerably, but then what you would do is instead of picking arc as your base class potentially, what you might do is pick some other class that has two decent skill lines and then grab the one really good arc. So I don't think it necessarily solves the problem as cleanly as you might think. I think really I just really think that overall there's just a lot. There's just so much work that needed to be done before they went live with this, and they didn't do any of it for whatever reason. Is that fair, Daedric? Am I being fair?
I think it's somewhat fair, but also I kind of support them just doing crazy changes like this, because the game's needed a shake up for a while. Stuff like this, let's shake it up, even though
I think this
definitely could have handled it better.
Yeah. I think this is a case. This happens all the time in business. You can have a really good idea, but if you implement it poorly, it can go really wrong. And then people will look at the thing that was implemented horribly, and they'll say, oh look, the idea was bad, and it's like, no, the idea wasn't bad, the implementation was bad. And it's, I think most people in most like business people have, they can't parse those two things apart. I think it's a little bit different with ESO because I do think this is still some really cool things. I am really excited for the multi-classing. I just also empathize with the people who lost their play style, who are now homeless, as we were saying, and stuff like that. Yeah. Ishi says, "Oh yeah, Frog, I'd love that CMX. If you don't mind DMing it to me, maybe in Discord, that'd be great." Ishi says people mentioned swapping some skills to the healer and tank lines just so strong combos can't be done, but that wouldn't be fun. They have a tough job there. Yeah. Well, and tank and healing is great. The only problem is DPS. Like healing could be fixed a little bit. Tanking needs like tanking is where everything else should be. It could use some tweaks to make things better, which honestly at this point they should ignore it. It's fine. Focus on DPS. But tanking is like, oh yeah, you could tweak some things. Healer is a lot more. There's a lot more healing things that could be done that would make a lot of sense, and you could really increase the effectiveness. Because right now, I think there's, at last count, there's like 4. There's curative rune forms. There's living death. There is, of course, the warden's green balance, and maybe one of the Nightblade ones, but even then you're kind of stretching a little bit. Those are really the 3 best healing skill lines, and everything else is like, yeah, you could grab some stuff from there. It's mostly passive, it's not active skills. So the tanks is more like, oh, well, I could grab 3 skill lines that would have 3 of the same. I could have 3, my primary heals, and I only need 1. So what do I do? So I think that DPS just needs to get in line with what tanking and healing to a lesser extent are like. Just adding Gravelord to an arc would still be OP, Robert points out. Yeah, that's kind of what I was getting at, Robert, is like you could pick 2 Crow skill lines and then just grab 1 Arcanist skill line and it would still be pretty broken. Frog says, I think the problem is beyond just numerical tuning. It's also the design of the skills relative to content design. I would also agree, Frog, and I would also say that, and I think this is something that is it's hard for people who maybe haven't thought a lot about game design, but the options and the things you could do with the current state with multi-classing are massive. There's all kinds of really cool things you could do, and ZOS clearly hasn't even begun to think about those things and how they could be implemented in the game. But they just have to get the balance somewhat in line. I personally think it's criminal to still have the beam be that much better than every other single target skill. I don't know. Daedric, how do you feel about it? Because I think you might take a different approach.
Nope, I completely agree with you. Beam should not be that strong.
Okay.
It's absolutely ridiculous.
So the buff. Why the hell did they buff it? It's insane.
Okay. The funny part about that was if you go look at the PTS notes and read the dev comment, they act like it's a nerf. Sure, they increase how much it costs.
Yeah.
Yes, you'll feel that. But to increase its damage, like, why?
Yeah, it's insane. It didn't need to be buffed. It was a head scratcher. Ishi says crazy can be fun too, so I'm going into the update hopeful. That's cool. Hey man, I think it's gonna be fun. I just think it's gonna piss a lot of people off. Ishi is the only thing. And I think it could have been done so much better. But yeah, man, I'm here for the ride. Guppy Source, so Nighthar, I'm heading to class in a couple of minutes. Can you drop the ultimate Big Chungus unkillable God mode tank build now that multi-classing is a thing? Guppy, I did that last week. What are you talking about? Get with the program. That's already been done. It's already been done. The unkillable build has been made. It was a week ago. There's probably like 3 or 4 other unkillable builds you could make though. Hey Red says really appreciate your content. What would you say best subclass setup for heavy attack builds? Also, what do you think is class multi-classing will do to class sets overall, good or bad? So I would say class sets overall doesn't really matter. Most of them weren't really used, so it still doesn't matter, Red, for the most part. The best subclass for a heavy attack. Ooh, that's a good question. I would think that you're really looking for the passives. I don't know. I'll let Daedric chime in because he might have a better idea. I like Nightblade for it. I like Gravelord for it. I like Assassination. I like Gravelord. I also trying to think of what else. There's at least one other that I would. Oh, of course, Sork. Like you got to have Sork for the extra lightning damage, like extra 5%, I think. Unless things change, I don't know. Daedric, do you have thoughts on heavy attack builds right
Does
now?
Graveler Sacrifice buff lightning heavy attack?
I think half of it is damage over time, unless that's changed, and then the last part is direct damage. If I'm not remembering that wrong, or if it hasn't
So if
changed.
it buffs it at all, then I'd say Crow Nightblade Sword for the reasons you said.
Yeah, and that's like an initial thought, right? So this is how this stuff works, guys. Is what we would do is we'd load something up, we'd go through all the skills, we'd pick the ones we thought, we'd try it out, then we go through an iterative process of seeing what else we could do. I will say the new Mythic is pretty cool. I have done a heavy attack build, and I did get higher DPS. It was like right when the first patch dropped, and everything was super buggy. And I don't know if skills were casting or if I just had a bad setup, but I gained about 15k on a Nightblade base. For a heavy attack build, but that was still not amazing to me. And I know there's some people that have gotten like 120k, and it was a 1-bar build because I think most people that do heavy attack builds, I have learned through experience that they would prefer a 1-bar build. Yeah, too much power budget is in the beam, Frog says. Hey, Nani. Nani says, leave my beam alone. You know what? We could leave it alone. We just got to, I don't know. It's too powerful. Or we could buff everything else. I want it to be good and I want it to be viable. I don't want it to be the best thing. If I'm doing a rotation, Nani, tell me this. So Nani is someone who plays with one hand and has buttons on her keyboard because that's what's easiest for her for, arthritic and other, or maybe other similar issues. Doesn't it make sense that if I'm a young buck, I'm a 19 or 20-year-old person, and I want to hit 15 buttons and hit them real fast, that I should be doing more damage than someone who's using a beam, because I hit the beam and I'm in content, guys, and you'll see me. I'll pick up my tea, I'll take both hands off the keyboard, I'll take a little sip, and like I'm still beaming at the end of that. That doesn't seem right, does it? Does that make sense to anybody? I think we want everybody to be able to play. I just don't think we want it to be crazy. All right, so let's move on. We got a couple of comments. We'll come back to them, guys. I'm sorry. I just want to make sure I'm not. We got Daedric here. I want to make sure that I'm utilizing his time well. So here we've got Alduin's 180k pars with. Looks like, we got Tentacular Dread. I love Tentacular Dread. I've been trying to make a build with it, and I kind of did it when it first came out. I did. It worked okay, but it didn't make a lot of sense because the beam is too good. Surprise attack, so we got Nightblade, and then... Oh, we got a DK here. Tell me more.
I don't think that's the 180k pars.
Oh,
DK one's 174, but yeah.
Okay. Did I get him out of order or something?
Maybe.
Nah, I think this is it. Oh, maybe not. Hold on.
There was one part
Where's
I think
You're right.
Page.
You're right. 174. Okay. Oh, that's what it is. Yeah, so what's this 180k? This is Nightblade, Sork, Arcanist. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. And that's starting out, looks like, with a power overload on the opening.
Right.
Okay. So this is a direct damage setup for a build. I like that. It seems like Tentacular Dread is going to be a pretty popular... We're noticing a theme. Even if you're getting multi-class, you still might want to grab an Arcanist, is what I'm feeling on this.
Yeah, because Arcanist is just stacked. Like, all of its passives just help you indirectly.
Yeah, they're all in one skill line. So if you get it, it's like you get more passives that boost your damage than pretty much anything else.
Yep.
Yeah, okay. Cool. And then, yeah, I'm sorry. So then we have a Nightblade, Arcanist, and DK here. Also, Alduin's 174. So there you go, Robert. Here's your I guess you've got Flames of Oblivion. Is that enough DK for you?
And the standard.
Oh, and the standard. Okay. I mean, all right. Hey man, that standard's nice for survivability. The damage reduction on it. Okay, let me catch up. Let me catch up some on chat here. Let me see. Okay, we got Nani telling me to leave her beam alone earlier. Yeah, okay. How does the Plar beam or Nightblade execute stack up in execute range to the arc beam? Is it an execute bonus enough to catch up in damage? It's a deep cut, Daedric. I think that's on you, man.
Yeah, so the Sparses that don't use beam, like your Killer's Blade definitely keeps up, and Polar Beam's in a weird spot because of the 5-second channel now. But it seems like it's doing well.
All right. Guppy, let me show you that build. Guppy, this is it right here. 11 days ago. Everyone, it's Night. Hey everyone, it's Nightharo here, and today. Sorry, whenever I hit my push to talk, it's also the back button on Windows, and I can't change that. So this is it: perma blocking, unkillable, multi-class tank build, Arc, Sork, Plar. There you go. I just want to point that out for her. Go check it out. It's on the channel. Okay. Frog says, "Man, I wish the Chain Lightning from IA was the 5-piece proc from the Stormcaller class set." Oh man, that's a great idea, Frog. That's a good idea. Victor says, "The thing that I don't like is how many dead skills that will not be used, even if they were barely used before. However, some builds still found use for them since nothing else was better." Yeah, that's a great point, Victor. And I think that's the problem with having, there's a lot of classes. I mean, Sork is a great one, right? Like I looked at a Nightblade and I wanted to do like a Nightblade direct damage. And so my first thought was like, what's another cool, good direct damage ability? And my first thought was, well, it's got to be the Sork, right? Crystal Frags. And there's just not enough else good in that skill line to make me want to grab it. And that was kind of a bummer. Red says, I'm a Warden main. What subclass skill line would you say would work best for a Warden for heavy attack and 2-bar? Heavy attack 2-bar Warden Red. Oh my gosh. All right, you guys are throwing out some specific questions. I would say you probably are going to be okay grabbing a Sork. I would also strongly consider Templar for the Empower, but we haven't been able to test it because it was bugged. So when I was testing heavy attack builds, I didn't test it. But their Solar Barrage provides Empower and gives you an extra 5% increased damage and does decent damage in an AoE around you. So I think that's a really good skill line. And after that, I wonder about Nightblade. I don't know if Daedric, you have any other thoughts off the top of your head? I'm pretty sure I'd have to test some stuff out to figure out what would be best.
Nightblade would probably be the next one.
Yeah. And I think you could also test out the Crow with some of the dot passives that could still work really well. And again, I believe that half of the damage from your heavy attacks is damage over time. And so that could get buffed from it, if I'm understanding correctly. So yeah, something like that. I would look for a source of Empower, though. I think the Templar Solar Barrage could be a really good way to go. Let me see here. Nani did respond because we're talking about that. I just want all content to be viable for all playstyles. I absolutely agree with you, Nani. And I think we're on the same page with that. I just think there does feel like if the game doesn't reward me for doing hard things, why would I do hard things? And so I think it's you want it to be viable, but you know, if you could have someone who could come in and it's like, well, they're the, you know, super high parsing but only single target damage dealer, but they can do like 20k, you know, more on a dummy than everybody else. I think everybody would be very happy to have that person in their group for the most part. And then those of us who are, you know, got the 3-button beam build can just do that and it's totally fine. I would also say that the new version of the beam build is, I think it's considerably more difficult. Daedric, do you have any thoughts on that?
Considerably more difficult.
Because I run Banner on live. I have 6 active skills total, and one of those is the beam.
Yeah.
So I did that.
I guess it would be more difficult.
Yeah, so I did that last night in the Rockgrove hard mode, and I had the shield beam on even, kind of by accident, and I was still I was like right up there with the top parser, if not the top. So Yeah, and that's pretty simple play style there. Press beam and take a bio break, Civilian says. Yeah.
Oh, something I forgot to mention with the beam parse, it's using end cap, so it actually is more difficult because you do have to line up your end cap windows
Oh,
with your
okay.
beam and
Everybody is on the Nightblade parse where you got to line up your end cap.
yeah.
I found that getting off the tether too before the corpse went away was really awkward timing for me, but I probably could figure that out. And sustain was a little bit harder as well. So.
Yep.
Let me see what we've got here. Frog is giving a call back to the last night when, he spills tea on his shirt during Beam. It's great content. Yeah. Well, you got time to clean it up still. Civilian says if you weren't base arc, though, you lose out on class mastery, crux gen, then, though, which would be rough on some of those setups. Yeah, absolutely, Civilian. I completely agree. Victor says for healing, how many group hot skills one could have now, like Echoing Vigor, one build could stack plenty. Yep, any build can stack plenty, Victor. I'm not. I don't feel like there's a question there, but yeah, you are correct. You only really need 2 skill lines to fill up your bar. The third one is kind of a bonus, really. Robert says seems like everything goes to be going to be base arc for all roles. Sigh. Yeah, the reason for that, Robert, is because arc is the one class that actually has a useful class mastery script or signature ability where it generates crux, and pretty much nobody else uses theirs. You could argue that a crow is like the second best, but even then it's like quite a few tiers down, and then most of the other ones are really below that. So much so that it half the time doesn't really matter. It's not something you would want to run because like Nightblade, it's only gives you a damage bonus when you're under 50% health, and it's it's just not as good. It's got to be twice as good to be the same effect as like an Arcanist or something. Yeah, Frog says here, I agree completely. If all builds were within 5 to 10% of each other, then people would bring whatever they want to trials, and it wouldn't matter. Yeah, exactly. I think that's what all of us want, really, too. I think we want them all to be viable, all to be relatively close. But I do think we want the thing that is hard. I do. I want the thing that is harder to do more damage. If I'm doing the harder thing, I feel like I should be rewarded for doing that difficult thing, and I think that's pretty fair to ask out of a game. All right, Nani, have a good one. We'll catch you later. Hey, Franny, it's good to see you. Okay, so we'll move on here. So we got the 174K parse. We've got standard and Flames of Oblivion. Again, leaning very much into Tentacular Dread. Oh, and I think that might be it. I just have an Oblivion symbol after that. Maybe it's a sign.
Yeah, I think that's all the parses.
Okay, cool. Well, it does seem like we've got 3 or 4 valid possible, build. I mean, more than that, I think that could parse pretty high. It does seem like they seem to contain. It's funny that they hated on the Nightblade. That's like the one thing they did last this week or whatever is that they nerfed the Nightblade. I thought that was funny. I don't know. I think Skinny Cheeks felt like it really deserved it. I feel like
it's earned.
Yeah. I mean, it's really high. It just feels like that's funny to like. How would I compare it? I don't. It's like having a soccer team worth of like hooligans and like punishing one of them. Yeah. It's just like, yeah, we're gonna make an example out of you, Nightblade. And as someone who obviously loves playing Nightblade, it feels bad. Is how I feel about it. I'm not saying it shouldn't be done, but I think too what needs to be done is that most of the other class skill lines need to be buffed so that there's a reason to run them as well.
Yeah, I also feel like that crit buff to Nightblade was made like in a vacuum, like. It wasn't planned around class or multiclassing, because like if that buff just hit live, it would make Nightblades good, but it wouldn't like break the meta, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, so it seems like Tentacular Dread, if you're not going to run the beam, I think it's on almost all of these builds. So,
yes.
Honestly, that might be a thing too for a heavy attack build. is maybe go into Tentacular Dread. It would make a lot of sense. You would ideally either want to be taking damage or be on an arc base for the extra 11% damage, and it's one skill every 20 seconds, which allows you to continue to heavy attack quite often. That actually might be the best thing to go with. The Nightblade having extra critical is just passive. It's just really good. You also have the ability to just put on, your bow on your back bar, and your like Merciless Resolve or the Stamina Morph for a little bit more weapon and spell damage, and then never use it. Seems like those are a couple of things that you could also consider. I don't know what's best, guys. I know we've gotten a couple of questions about heavy attack builds. I don't actually know what's best off the top of my head. Well, Daedric, anything else that... hey, Vatra. Anything else that we want to, I guess, go over? Like, so for people that are panicked for next patch and are maybe doom and glooming, do you have any words to them?
I will say a lot of this stuff hasn't been tested in content, so we honestly don't really know like how far between some of these builds are. So I would wait and see, especially after these nerfs next week. The nerfs next week should bring a lot of things more in line, and then we can see like how far behind like certain builds are compared to others, and then see the full extent of the damage.
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah, I think we're all expecting quite a few changes for next week, everybody. So I would also say stay tuned. Hopefully, again, there's not much changes to tanks and healers, but I mean, I don't know. I could imagine any number of crazy things coming out next week, and I think we're all expecting some pretty massive changes. I also think that none of us expect it to be fixed. I think that we expect that there's going to be some other crazy changes that are going to need to be made. There might be some other things that are wild, like something we not even on our radar, right? All of a sudden might become everybody's going to take this, Sork skill line or something. So let's all like wait and see. For me, for my part, I'm really excited. I think this is really great. I think it's good for the game. Again, I very much empathize with people whose play style is getting destroyed. Some of my favorite play styles are getting destroyed. I do also share in the frustration of like, hey, it's, I mean, right now, I don't love the current meta. I think we talked about this earlier, Daedric, where like the beam, everybody just brings a bunch of Arcanists and we all beam, and that's just the best thing to do. And, I think that's not great for the game, but it's been going on for 2 years. So, right, 2 years, a year and a half, 2 years, right? Yeah.
Coming up 2 years. Yeah.
Coming up on 2 years. So, it is what it is. I guess we'll see. We'll have fun if we're going to have fun. I would encourage everybody, if you already have the base game, give it a try. I think there's going to be some fun things. And, it's going to be 6 months, 9 months, a whole year. And then even then, there's still, this is us. So you're probably still going to wish that some things were going to change. But I do think that there's enough interesting stuff here and I think overall this is a great thing for the game as a whole. That's my takeaway. Well, Daedric, thanks for joining us, man. Thanks for your words of wisdom. Thanks for sharing everything with us. Does anybody have any last-minute questions here before we call it for the day? I'm not going to stop streaming, but we are going to do a 180, guys. We're going to jump in and do some hell dive in here in a second. But if anybody has any last-minute questions for myself or Daedric, drop them in chat, and we'd love to try to answer those questions as best we can. And we'll give everybody just a minute. Daedric, thanks as always, man, for coming on and for taking the time, man. I really appreciate it. I know everybody else does as well.
Yeah, it's fun to jump in here.
All right, guys. Do we not have any questions? Maybe we don't. Well, I think all the questions might have been asked, Daedric. So, yeah, man, I'll just say thank you again. And, yeah, maybe we can chat some more after all these changes have happened. We'll give it a little bit of time to let everything marinate. And before the update, guys, we will be back on it myself, if not Daedric. But I bet I could talk Daedric into coming back on, and we can chat more about what it looks like for the various skill lines and what it's going to be for the patch.
Yeah, I'd be happy to come back on, talk about it once we see the next set of changes.
Awesome. Cool. Well, we'll call it here, guys. We'll call it here for this stream. Like I said, we're going to jump in. We're going to play some games. We're going to do some hell diving for the next couple of hours. We will be back on Friday with some more talking. For those who don't know, I've got actually just finished editing it before going live here, but I've got a healer build for those ward mains out there for kind of what you're going to want to do kind of next patch. And you know what? I think maybe the next thing for everybody is just to kind of go through and talk about all the skill lines that are going to be particularly useful. I am torn because obviously DPS is a big wild card right now, so we don't know how that's going to end up, if it's going to be, what's going to be. So I'm not sure if I'm going to do like a tank and healer thing and just kind of explain it, because I think we know largely what it's going to be like, or maybe we'll wait until next Monday and we get all the crazy updates, because who knows, maybe the tank, whoever's in charge of, balancing tanks and healers didn't have anything to do, so they messed with stuff that was probably well enough alone. Mr. E says, I think multiclassing will be great for the specialty DLC, assassin and thief. Yeah, that's a good point. Whoop for warden healer build. Okay, awesome. That's great to hear, Scott. All right, guys, we're going to jump over to Helldivers. Thanks again, Daedric. We'll catch you later, man.
All right, see you.
All right, guys, give me just 1 second here as I we'll jump over into the hell diving channel. I don't know if people are joining us today, but I bet usually some people join whenever we're hell diving. And I know that's a 180 turn for a lot of you guys, so those of you dipping out, no worries. Catch you later. What's your thought on subclassing in Baldur's Gate? Wait, in BGs. Sorry, you said BGs, and I'm like Baldur's Gate. Subclassing in BGs, it's gonna be crazy. DPS going up, I don't think is a great thing. I think that it's gonna make the skill gap even wider, and I think that's a problem for most of the people that just want to roll into BGs. I've said this before, but when I've gone into BGs and I have just like I had my PvE build on, and I like changed a few skills and made it decently vaguely decently PvE or PvP. I would sometimes get like top kills on a death match, and that should not be happening. I died a bunch, but because I had no, survivability, but yeah, it wasn't good. And there were other people. What am I doing? I'm getting the wrong game. I'm autopiloting, guys. There were a lot of other people that, I think were in that group and were doing their best and were also on PvP builds. So I don't know. I'm not sure where I feel like my skill in PvP is pretty low, but maybe it's higher than I feel like. So I guess Zombie Jesus says ganking will go from 1.5 seconds now to 0.7 seconds. I think Zombie's right there. Necros are still in the corner crying. Oh man, that's tough. Oh, that is tough. Yeah. Poor Necros. Poor Necros. No love. All right, guys, on YouTube, I'm going to end this stream technically, guys, and it should kick you over to the new one. That's just how we separate the VODs. You might have to hit refresh. Sometimes it'll leave you on the stream starting soon. I start the stream after like 30 seconds, guys, so just pop back in. Just realize, like, if it's not starting, it's probably YouTube, so it only takes me about 30 seconds. So I'm going to end this stream, guys, and we'll be right back. And then everybody over on Twitch,